Hey, I'm Molly Sims.
And I'm Emma Gormley. We're two girls obsessed with one thing, beauty.
And by that, we mean everything that makes you look
And feel
beautiful.
We're calling on our favorite health experts, industry insiders, and friends to answer all your beauty questions.
With a drink in hand.
Definitely with a drink in hand.
You're listening to Lipstick on the Rim with Molly Sims.
You know, I have been obsessing about this for a while now. But have you heard of this thing called the Blue Zone diet?
Well, guess what? My husband, Mike Gormley, actually bought me a book from Blue Zone a couple years ago under the Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've had intrigue for several years. We finally got our next guest. He is the founder of Blue Zone LLC, an organization working to bring the life-changing habits of Blue Zones to cities around the world. A National Geographic Explorer and a multiple New York Times bestselling author. You guys have probably seen him on his Emmy award-winning Netflix series called Live to 100, which we all want to do. Okay, so today it's all about breaking down the freaking Blue Zone diet. Not just breaking it down, but we have the founder of the Blue Zone diet, Dan Buettner. We could not be more excited to have you. We're going to be breaking down the diet, lifestyles, the secrets behind these regions. And we are so excited to have you here. Dan is like tan. He's got great light. He's coming from us in Miami.
He looks very Miami right now.
He looks very Blue Zone Miami. He's
tan and healthy.
Tan and healthy. We're really excited to have you on. I know it's been such a crazy 3+ years of when everything's blown up. But for those of you who don't know, what is a Blue Zone, Dan?
A Blue Zone is a geographically defined and then demographically confirmed area where people live the longest. And what that means is there are up to 15 times more people who make it to 100. And middle-aged people, and I know you guys aren't middle-aged yet, but when you become middle-aged, your life expectancy is about 10 years greater. So a middle-aged person can expect 10 more good years of life in a Blue Zone than you could living in America.
What are some of those Blue Zone places?
Yeah, what are the original? There's originally 5, right?
Correct. Okinawa, Japan, longest lived women, longest lived men in Sardinia, the highlands, Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, the island of Ikaria, Greece, almost no dementia there, by the way. And then among the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, that's America's Blue Zone.
Loma Linda, California.
Correct.
Wait, how did you come up with the name the Blue Zone?
Well, one of our colleagues in Sardinia traveled throughout the entire island and was looking at the data and found that there was an unusually high concentration of centenarians in the villages in the central mountainous area. And every village with that high concentration of centenarians, he made a blue check mark, which he, and there were so many blue check marks there, it created this blue blob. We just started calling it the Blue Zone, and the name stuck, and we expanded it to the other 4 places where you have extraordinary longevity.
What is a centenarian? Do you know what that means?
Someone who lives...
A centenarian, somebody who reached age 100.
Got it. Okay, sir. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And so was this research on purpose? Was it accident? You're a National Geographic Explorer, by the way. That's so cool because I grew up with National Geographic and I still love it to this day. But was your research sought out? Was it, again, circumstance?
No, it was very intentional. I'm a lifelong explorer. I hold 3 world records for biking across 5 continents. And I had previously a expedition company that solved ancient mysteries. And I was very interested in scientific mysteries. And we found the Okinawa Blue Zone in 1999. And we reasoned that if there's an area in Okinawa where people live a long time, there must be areas in Europe and South America and maybe even the United States. And the age verification, so the certification that these people are really as old as they say they were, took us 3 years. Wow. And that's how our project stands out from everybody else. There's lots of reporting errors and age exaggeration elsewhere in the world, but our work made sure that there were no errors. And that's why Blue Zones have been around for 20 years. And that's why their lessons are important to us, because these are real people with an average set of genes who are not obese. They're not suffering from type 2 diabetes or heart attacks, and they have energy and they look young. And we're trying to understand what exactly do they do that produces such extraordinary vitality.
Was there one commonality that you found that stood out amongst these five? No.
And the way you have to think about it, I know marketers kind of relentlessly sell us the notion that there is a quick fix for health or longevity, a peptide or stem cell or hormone therapy. There's no free lunch. In Blue Zones, it's the sum of lots of little things that are deployed on a day-to-day basis for decades. And I think of them as little nudges and defaults that help make our unconscious decisions better, not our conscious decisions. We're not very successful at changing our conscious decisions. But when our surroundings are set up in such a way that we're moving more because we have to get around our house or our community, where the food that we have access to tends to be whole food, plant-based, that the options to recede into our room and get on our screen are harder to do. When it's easier to live out your purpose, then longevity ensues. It's not something we very successfully pursue. It ensues from the right environment.
I believe that. I mean, when you're living in an area where it sets you up for success, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Would you say those areas were kind of like less stressful geographically, like mentally stressful? Like when you say Sardinia, I think of beautiful relaxation, would you say that was?
No, I would not. I would say stress is part of the human condition, and that whether you're a mother in Sardinia or a mother in Los Angeles, you worry about your child. You worry about her health. You worry about, is she going to grow up and find a good partner? You worry about your financial situation. You worry about your own health. This is part of the human condition. Now, where there is a difference is, do you have sacred rituals that help you shed stress, like prayer or meditation or taking a nap or a practice of a happy hour? Do you sit down to dinner with your family, or are you driving off with one hand on the steering wheel and the other hand with the burger? So no, these places aren't necessarily stressful, but they do offer us lessons to mitigate stress in our lives.
Okay, we're going to break down a little bit of the Blue Zone diet. We're going to talk about the Blue Zone diet, but we're also going to talk about the Blue Zone lifestyle. Okay, Dan, feel free to guide us through your principles. Okay, your diet should be 95 to 100% plant-based.
What we did is we went to all the Blue Zones and we found dietary surveys over the past 100 years. So if you want to know what a 100-year-old ate to live to be 100, you have to know what she was eating as a little girl or middle age or retired or not lately. So we found 155 dietary surveys in all 5 Blue Zones, and I worked with Harvard to boil them down. And what people actually eat who live a long time without disease is 90 to 95% whole food plant-based. It's a very high carb diet. And I know people, oh my God, carbs. But carbs can be the worst thing in our food supply. Refined sugars and donuts and cookies, or it can be the best thing in our diet. And that's things like whole grains and greens and tubers like sweet potatoes and beans. So they're mostly eating this complex carbohydrates. And what's remarkable about it is it's peasant food. We have this mistaken notion that we have to be rich, shop at Erdogan or Whole Foods to be healthy. No, the healthiest foods are the foods at the bottom of the aisle or the bottom of the shelf of the grocery store. the bulk beans and the pearl barley and the whole grain rice. And all it takes is a little bit of ingenuity to make those taste delicious, and a little bit of skill and a little bit of time. And everybody listening to this right now could be well on their way to adding an extra decade to their life by eating this way.
Well, that's why we wanted to have you on, because we do believe in trying to live the longest you can live in a healthy way. Okay, so your diet should be 95 to 100% plant-based. Retreat from meat. Go easy on fish. Reduce dairy. Eliminate eggs. He said, very important, daily dose of beans, which we're going to come back to. Slash sugar. Eat only sourdough or 100% whole wheat. Snack on nuts. I love it.
Bread.
Eat mostly whole foods. Drink mostly water. Coffee, tea, and red wine are okay in moderation. Do you think that, do you think people are changing how they're eating because of the blue zone? You don't?
Oh, well, I think people will read my books, but America, most Americans are eating a standard American diet. I think what Blue Zones has given us is some clarity. I mean, if you really want to eat healthier, you're cooking at home and you're basically cooking ingredients that your grandmother cooked. Mm-hmm. And it's not a lot of meat, cheese, and eggs. In Blue Zones, they were eating about 20 pounds of meat a year. So maybe meat once a week or during a birthday celebration or a wedding. Americans eat about 240 pounds of meat. So that's like a bathtub full of dead animal that we eat every year. It's just too much, historically speaking. Same thing with milk. We consume several hundred pounds of dairy products. And we didn't necessarily evolve to drink the mammary secretions of another species of animal. But yet we have this mistaken idea that drinking milk is good for us. It's not. In Blue Zones, they're not drinking any cow's milk or any appreciable cow's milk. They're drinking, they're eating some cheese from feta or from sheep's milk cheese, but just a little bit. And they don't eat a lot of eggs. 3 eggs on average a week. And that's, again, that's not Dan Buettner speaking. That's just telling you what the world's longest lived people have eaten and suggesting that pretty strongly that might help fuel us into our 90s and 100 without all the diseases we're suffering from as Americans.
You said something about dementia. Was it in Sardinia or where was that? You said
in Ikaria. Almost no dementia on the entire island.
That's so
and they're eating
interesting.
the purest form of the Mediterranean diet in the world. Yeah, lots of greens, probably 70 or 80 kinds of greens, things we'd recognize like spinach and arugula and lettuce, but also things that, kind of grow in our backyards that we would weed whack. Fennel greens, which you see all the time in California. And, we think they're weeds, but they're actually incredibly healthy. Many of us, dandelions, for example, are very healthy greens. They're diuretics. They lower our blood pressure. We douse them with chemicals and kill them. And in Blue Zones, they lightly steam them and add olive oil and lemon or bake them into beautiful pies. And
it's amazing.
That's just the difference.
Is there an age so I'm 46 years old,
Shut up.
I'm 51. I'm 51.
Oh my God. I thought I was dealing with adolescence here.
Oh, Thanks, Dan.
Keep the compliments coming,
Keep
Dan.
the compliments coming.
I'm just a reporter.
But so I guess my question is there an age at which, you can adapt this Blue Zone lifestyle, but you can't anticipate it having a tremendous impact on your lifespan, right? I'm 46. Say I've, ate like crap most of my life. Obviously it'll benefit me, but what can my expectation be on maybe pivoting the damage done a little bit?
Yes, I'll give you an idea. So if you're a 20-year-old and you move from a standard American diet to a Blue Zone diet, which is to say largely whole food, plant-based, it's worth about 10 extra years of life expectancy. If you're a 60-year-old and you move from a standard American diet to a Blue Zones diet, it's worth about 6 years of life expectancy. And when you're 80, if you move to a Blue Zone diet, it's worth about 3 years. So, but the good news, it's never too late to live longer. And by the way, you'd feel much better. Here's the challenge. I have, after this, if anybody wants to direct message me, or I'll give you guys, I have a recipe for a minestrone, Sardinian minestrone, which is essentially a vegetable soup. It's very delicious. If you eat that in the morning, you'll be full of energy. You won't get sluggish. You won't have a spike of insulin and then a slump, as opposed to eating eggs and bacon or eating a lunch of burgers and fries and a soda. Pay attention to how you feel after eating a standard American meal compared to how you feel after eating a Blue Zone meal, and you feel the difference immediately. You have more energy. You'll sleep better. Your skin will look better. You'll be more attractive in general.
Well, I think that's so important. I think a lot of it is, do you really feel good when you've macked down fries and a burger and you drank all day? Like the next day you're like, oh, I feel disgusting. I mean, I do eat meat. I don't eat excess meat, but I could definitely cut down. I definitely cut down on dairy.
Yeah, I've cut down
over the past like 15 years. Dairy, gluten.
But I do love an egg in the morning. I mean, I find that's like, if I have that bit of protein in the morning, I actually find that my sugar, like my spikes level out. Like I don't get hungry as early. Yeah. But you're saying eggs are bad.
Actually, if you ate a cup of beans, you'd get just as much protein, and you'd remain satiated for even longer than you would for an egg. And you wouldn't get the saturated fat and whatever hormones or whatever pesticides are in that egg.
Like why can't we get rid of something like Red 40? Like why is it been banned? Red dye 40. Like why in the world it's been banned from Europe for 20, 30 plus years? Why is it not banned here? Why do we still have genetically modified? Like it's crazy to me. And you see the rates of cancer going up. You see the rates of so many things going up. Like, why in the world can that not change? I mean, that's a bigger question.
Totally different, but it's a very valid one. I mean,
it's just,
Well, I think red dye is a bit of a red herring. I mean, the reason we're 75% of Americans are obese, overweight, or diabetic is because not the red dye. I mean, yes, it's not healthy, but it's because of the 100 plus pounds of sugar we consume, the 240 pounds of meat, and the fact that 70 or 80% of all groceries in our grocery stores are processed or ultra processed food. And the reason we have that, and there's not a bad guy, I actually don't like necessarily picking on General Mills or Kellogg or whatever. They're just doing what every company's supposed to do. Every company in America, they're there to generate profits, and their CEO keeps their job, his or her job, as long as they maximize shareholder value. The problem, if you think deeply and trace it back to the origin, is our farm bill, which heavily incents farmers to grow corn and wheat and sugar beet and soy. So we get this glut of these inputs, and these are all the inputs that we use to make ultra-processed food and feedlot meat and feedlot dairy. Mm-hmm. So we heavily subsidize this food, and we get the food industry just buys these very cheap products. They hire food scientists to make them taste indescribable. They hire Madison Avenue, sharpest minds in Madison Avenue, to market them to us. And they make it unavoidably convenient. So Americans are, we're genetically hardwired to crave sugar, fat, and salt. And we can't walk more than 5 steps before we get some cheap bag of chips or some irresistible cheap candy bar or cheap can of soda or cheap Happy Meal. And we're just responding to our environment. And it's not until we get at the root cause, and the root cause is not red dye. The root cause is the economics of food. And
It's true.
Yeah.
it's not easy to,
unravel.
Your body's very powerful.
What was your diet at the moment when however old you were when you discovered the blue zones? How much of a shift did you make to your own diet?
I quit eating meat altogether.
At that time?
Yeah, about that time. I mean, I weaned off and then I quit about a decade ago, and I don't miss it. And I'm probably the healthiest person my age that I know. And now I don't, it's very rare that I eat processed food. If you guys invite me out to dinner and you get a dessert, I'll steal a bite. But I generally don't buy processed food. I cook for myself. And I mean, I'm just one person, but I just know that if you're eating a whole food, plant-based diet, you're going to weigh 20 pounds less as a middle-aged woman, as opposed to your meat-eating counterpart.
So you'd say cutting meat is the number one thing to do?
I'd say cutting sugar is number one. I'd say cutting animal products is number two.
And processed foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, processed food.
So you said eat beans or minestrone soup in the morning, right? What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting? How does that play into?
Good idea. I think if you can get all your food in a 6 to 8 hour window, and I think the best evidence is a pattern where you're either eating breakfast at 10 and then dinner at 4, or, for Miami, for example, where everybody goes out at night, having your breakfast at noon or 1 ideally, and then you're done eating by 7 or 8. There's ample evidence to show that, first of all, you're going to lose weight, probably a pound or so a week, reliably. Secondly, your mitochondria, the little energy factories in your cell, work more efficiently. Thirdly, there's something called autophagy. When your body starts looking for calories and it doesn't have, the easy glycogens to use, it starts eating the damaged cells and the precancerous cells in your body. So your chances of cancer go down. It creates no new neural pathways. So you're sharper. And there's just the best anti-aging strategy that anybody can take, and you never hear about this because marketers can't make money off of you, is to simply eat a whole food plant-based diet as much as you can. You can eat a little meat or fish if you want, just a little, and get all your calories in an ideally 8 or 6 hour window after 10 a.m. That's it.
I can do that.
I could do that.
Because I can eat, I can fast.
Yeah.
I don't
have
fasting.
a big problem with breakfast in the morning.
By the way, it's not even fasting after a while. Like I don't eat breakfast until noon or 1 o'clock, and I don't even get hungry anymore.
Right, me neither.
I drink black coffee or black tea or green tea, and I don't even miss it.
Right.
But it sure feels good to not have a gut and to be, strong and nimble. And here, I can show you. No, just kidding.
Okay, so let's break down the Blue Zone lifestyle. Sense of purpose. I'm getting this from your book. Sense of purpose, regular physical activity, strong social connections, low stress levels, adequate amount of sleep.
No, I'm going to take away all that stuff.
Okay.
That's sort of general practices, and none of that's bad. None of it's wrong. But what Blue Zones tells us differently is you have to reshape your environment. You have to live in a place where the healthy choice is the easy choice.
The healthy
so
choice.
setting up your kitchen so that there's a junk food drawer, or there's not a place for junk food, that you have all the implements necessary to quickly eat whole food plant-based, a pressure cooker or an Instapot or a crock pot, or a blender is also very useful when you eat this way. It's finding friends whose idea of physical activity or idea of recreation is physical activity. Finding friends who care about you on a bad day, friends who are eating whole food plant-based. Because all the things that you just said, while they're not wrong, if you ask people to change their behavior and do that, they'll fail 97% of the time. So the key is thinking about ways to set up your life so you will unconsciously do the right thing for the long run. And that's reshaping your kitchen. It's reshaping your social network. It's reshaping your workspace. So you're not, and it's setting up your house in a way where you're nudged into physical activity and nudged into social interaction. And arguably the biggest thing you can do is think about the neighborhood you live in. I lived in Minneapolis for a long time, and the Seward neighborhood had a life expectancy of 12 years greater than Frogtown, which was just 3 miles away. Now, is that because people in Seward had better discipline or better individual responsibility? No, people in Seward lived in a place where the streets were walkable and there were trees and there was a co-op with healthy food, and it was safe, and it was easy to bump into neighbors. It was easy for kids to play in the playground. That is the key to it. We don't think clearly when it comes to doing the things that actually work. And that's what I'm trying to keep focused on with Blue Zones. I know it's frustrating.
No, it's not frustrating. I mean, what you do is incredible. You hosted a 4-episode Netflix show visiting the original Blue Zones. What were the biggest similarities and differences you observed among these regions?
They all live in environments where the healthy choice is the easy choice. There was vocabulary for purpose.
Yeah.
People tended to live in extended families and keep aging parents nearby. Beans was the cornerstone of every.
Yeah, will you talk a little bit about beans? How can we get more beans in our diet? What, lima beans, green beans, mug beans? Any kind of bean?
The best bean to eat is the bean you love, because you'll eat it for a long time. I could argue black beans.
I love black beans.
I make this, like I said, I make a minestrone. There's 3 beans in there before you even start your day. You don't realize it. But
I'm going to eat that.
Yeah.
You also get lentil beans work. Hummus is a great way to get beans.
That's good. I eat so much of it every week.
I'll tell you why. The biggest and arguably most important organ in our body when it comes to digestive health is our microbiome. Mm-hmm. And it's below our belly, and it weighs, depending on how big you are, somewhere between 6 and 8 pounds. And it consists of about 100 trillion with the T, bacteria. There's good and bad bacteria. The bad bacteria is fed by meat and cheese and eggs, and that putrefies. That bacteria putrefies, and it actually creates a precursor in your liver, which we know causes cancer. The vast majority of those bacteria, the good bacteria, eat one and only one thing: fiber. And when you feed your microbiome fiber, it produces something called short-chain fatty acids, which in your bloodstream mutes inflammation, fine-tunes your immune system, and most importantly, synthesizes most of the vitamins and the feel-good hormones, serotonin, oxytocin. Those are all made in your gut, or the precursors that are made in your gut. If you don't feed your gut fiber, and by the way, the standard American diet, pizzas and hamburgers and Snickers, there's no fiber, or not enough fiber. So when you starve your microbiome, it starts eating at the mucous membrane and causes leaky gut syndrome and irritable bowel syndrome and inflammation. Once your poop leaches into your bloodstream, inflammation explodes. We vastly misunderstand the importance of fiber, and beans. A cup of beans a day gets you half the fiber for the day.
Wow,
you're halfway there with just a cup of beans in the morning. That's why it's important. And you're never going to get that from eggs and bacon.
Right.
You're never going to get it from Fruit Loops and Cheerios.
Now, if I roast a batch of like chickpeas in the oven, am I like zapping it of its nutritious value?
No.
Am I okay?
No, your fiber stays intact. You can go ahead and do that. But, I always, so I'm going to plug 2 things here. First of all, the best-selling frozen food, plant-based frozen food in America is Blue Zone Kitchen.
Okay.
It's in all Whole Foods and a bunch of other, costs you about $7. Every one of them, I have 8 different dinners in there, cost less than $7. They have about half the fiber you need for the day. Nobody can tell me they can't afford it or they can't do that. Number 2, I've written a number of books, Blue Zone Kitchens. They're all titled Blue Zone Kitchen. Each of them have 100 recipes. You sit down with your family, page through it, pick out a dozen of them, cook them at home. Do 3 a Sunday for 4 Sundays. New Year's resolution, instead of the same diet that you're going to fail at anyway, have your family learn how to cook a few plant-based, a few of the Blue Zone Kitchen meals, the ones that you like. And once you've tried it, learn how to do it. Once you know you have the hardware in your kitchen to do it. And the most importantly, once you've tasted it and know you like it, my job's over. Yeah, you're going to like it. And by the way, all this food is cheap. It's not expensive food.
We're doing that.
Yeah.
I'm getting the cookbooks. You also have
I got one for Christmas.
You got one for Christmas. Dan also has a new book coming out on September 2nd called The Blue Zone One Pot Meals, which I love a one pot.
I love a one pot meal.
I love I love a one pot. Are there any myths about the Blue Zones or the Blue Zone diet that you'd like to debunk?
One that going around the internet, that we have a troll, kind of the academic equivalent of Krusty the Clown, who it made this complete a lie that we'd invalidate ages. And I like debunking that. We did validate ages, but I don't think that, the meat eaters don't like me because, I'm promoting mostly a plant-based diet, but I always challenge them to find one population in the history of the world that's primarily carnivorous, that lives a long time. But no, it's lasted 20 years, and
it's amazing.
I think it'll continue to get bigger. Our Blue Zone projects, we actually deliver healthier cities. And
will you talk about that for 1 minute before you go? About what you're doing for these cities and trying to go in and help make that healthy environment an easy choice?
Yeah. So my day job since about 2009 is we get paid by insurance companies and hospital systems to work with cities and city government to change the policies and optimize the schools, restaurants, grocery stores, workplaces, and churches so that the choices people are confronted with are healthier. So instead of going into Fort Worth, Texas, for example, 1 million people, and trying to convince them to eat beans instead of beef, and to convince them to walk instead of drive, we simply change their environment so it favors the pedestrian and the bicyclist over the motorist a little bit, not completely. We all have to drive. Favors healthy food over junk food and junk food marketing. Favor the non-smoker over the smoker, and make it easier for people to socialize. And we measure it at the beginning with Gallup, and then we measure it after 5 years. And after 5 years, obesity rate dropped by 3%, and Fort Worth reported $250 million of projected healthcare cost savings. Wow. So it works. And now we're in 70 cities. We take the same approach, environmental approach. And I think it's going to continue to explode. It's the right idea.
I mean, you're doing some amazing work with that.
We always ask every guest before they go, if you could give advice to your 10-year-old self, what would it be?
Keep doing what you're doing. Don't get a job.
Okay, you guys, honestly, Dan, make sure and follow him on Instagram at Dan Buettner, Buettner, BlueZoneKitchen.com, Blue Zone approved meals in Whole Food, his Blue Zone cookbooks. He has a new one coming out September 2nd. Like I said, the Blue Zone One Pot Meals. You guys can check out our full-length episode on YouTube. Dan, you're amazing. I've always wanted to talk to you and pick your brain. I'm very interested in this. And it's the little steps that I think
it's going to be a meatless 2025.
It's going to be a meatless 2025, let me tell you. But thank you, really, and what you've done and what you continue to do. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it with us.
From the pig's lips to God's ears.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Love you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I mean, I have to say, like, it's so,
it's Captain Obvious, but
it's important that we spread this message. And this is to Meatless 2025.
Here we are.
You guys don't forget to rate and review us. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok at Lipstick on the Rim. Emisha has an incredible Substack called Tell Me More, and you can follow me at Molly Sims. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap,
That's
girl.
a wrap, girl. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Love you guys.
Thanks for listening to Lipstick on the Rim with Molly Sims and my ride or die, Emisha Gormley. We're so excited to bring you guys along on this journey with us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Lipstick on the Rim and at Molly B. Sims. Or you can go to my blog where you can dive just a little bit deeper into my favorite products, trends, and more at mollysims.substack.com. And don't forget to check out our video episodes on my YouTube channel, Molly Sims. This podcast is a production with Sony Music. I wanted to give a special thanks to my team, Rosie Cummings, Kenna Ryan, Sophine Kevorkian, and everyone at Sony Music. Don't forget to listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss out on the fun.